There are 3 reasons why God isolates the chosen ones. Imagine waking up one day feeling completely alone, like the world is moving around you, but somehow you're set apart, distant, even isolated. You look around at friends, family, and all the familiar places, yet deep down, you feel like you're walking a path no one else understands. It's as if God Himself has taken you away from the crowd, pulled you into a season of solitude. But what if I told you this isolation isn't a curse, it's a blessing in disguise? What if this period of feeling set apart is actually God's way of preparing you for something extraordinary? Today, we're going to uncover the mystery behind why God isolates His chosen ones. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see your loneliness in a whole new light. The term, 3 reasons why God isolates the chosen ones, might already stir something deep inside you. If you're watching this, you've probably felt the weight of being set apart, like you don't quite fit into the world around you. This feeling of isolation can be confusing and even painful at times, but it's no accident. God isolates His chosen ones for a reason. He is preparing you, strengthening you, and protecting you for a divine purpose. This isn't just about loneliness, it's about transformation. Now, I want to be clear, this video isn't for everyone. If what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you, it's okay to skip it. But if you're truly one of the chosen, you'll feel something within you urging you to watch till the very end. Because there's a gift from God waiting for you in this message. You didn't land here by coincidence. You were guided here. As the Bible says in Isaiah 49:2, He made my mouth like a sharpened sword. In the shadow of His hand He hid me. He made me into a polished arrow and concealed me in His quiver. This verse is a reminder that God may hide and isolate you for a time, but it's only because He's refining you, making you into a powerful tool for His purpose. If you're ready to understand why God has placed you in a season of isolation and how it's shaping you for something greater, then stay with me. This could be the revelation you've been waiting for. Now, before we dive deeper, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. This is more than just a channel. It's a sacred space for chosen ones like you, where we walk together on this journey of divine purpose and spiritual growth. If this resonates with you, hit that like button, share it with someone you know who may be going through their own spiritual awakening, and drop a comment below saying, I am chosen. Go ahead and declare it. I am chosen by God. Your words hold power, and this simple act of faith can ignite something profound in your life. Reason number 1. God isolates you to prepare you for a higher calling. When God isolates you, it can feel like the world has turned its back on you. People you were once close to may drift away. Opportunities that seemed so certain may slip through your fingers. But chosen one, this isolation is no accident. God doesn't isolate you to abandon you. He isolates you to prepare you, to elevate you to a level where only those who are truly called by Him can go. Think about this. Before every major move of God, there was a period of isolation. It's not just a season of silence. It's a season of transformation. Look at the life of Joseph. He was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery by his own brothers, and later imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. But what seemed like a series of setbacks was actually God's setup. During his time of isolation, God was shaping Joseph into the leader he would one day become, second in command to Pharaoh. Without that period of separation, Joseph would never have been prepared to save an entire nation from famine. Genesis 50:20 reminds us of Joseph's understanding of God's plan. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. In the same way, Your current isolation is not to harm you. It's for your good. God is stripping away everything that is not aligned with His purpose for your life. He is cutting off relationships, opportunities, and distractions that could hinder your growth. It's a cutting process, and just like a gardener cutting a tree branch to make it bear more fruit, God is doing the same with you. John 15:2 says, "Every branch in me that does not bear fruit He takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit He prunes, that it may bear more fruit." Your isolation is a form of divine pruning because God wants you to be fruitful in your calling. I know it can be hard. You may feel like you're walking through a desert with no end in sight, but remember, God's greatest works are often done in the wilderness. When you're alone, that's when God can speak to you more clearly. You might wonder, why can't I hear God in the busyness of life? It's because sometimes God needs to take you away from the noise. He needs to pull you into a quiet space where it's just you and Him. Think about Elijah. After his mighty victory over the prophets of Baal, he fled into the wilderness, exhausted and afraid. But it was in that place of isolation where God came to him, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in a gentle whisper, 1 Kings 19:11-12. When God isolates you, He draws you close, so you can hear His voice in a way you never have before. During this period, He's refining you, just like gold is refined in the fire. You may not understand it now, but there are things in you that need to be transformed so you can step into the fullness of your calling. God doesn't just want you to be ready. He wants you to be equipped, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, for the great things He has prepared for you. He is sharpening your gifts, strengthening your faith, and molding your character, so when the time comes, you can carry the weight of the calling He has placed on your life. This is why isolation is so important. God sees something in you that others don't. He knows your potential, and He's preparing you for a purpose that is far greater than you can imagine. Ephesians 3:20 tells us that God is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us. But that power can only be fully activated when we allow God to do His work for us during seasons of isolation. Chosen one, don't resist this process. Lean into it. Embrace the quiet. Embrace the solitude. Because in this isolation, God is building you up. He's laying a foundation that will support the great calling He has for you. Isaiah 40:31 promises, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." Your time of waiting, of being set apart, is where God is renewing your strength. You will rise out of this season stronger, wiser, and more aligned with His will than ever before. Reason number 2, deepening your relationship with God. When God isolates you, He's not just separating you from the world, He's drawing you closer to Himself. This period of isolation is not about loneliness, it's about intimacy. God removes the distractions so that you can focus on Him fully, without the noise of other voices, opinions, or influences. He's creating a space where you can hear His voice more clearly, where your faith can grow stronger, and where your relationship with Him can deepen in ways that it never has before. Think of Jesus. Before He began His public ministry, He spent 40 days alone in the wilderness. During that time, He fasted, prayed, and resisted temptation. In that period of isolation, Jesus wasn't just preparing for His mission, He was strengthening His connection with the Father. Luke 5:16 reminds us that Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Even the Son of God needed solitude to commune deeply with His Father, to be refreshed and empowered for the journey ahead. In the same way, your isolation is an invitation from God to seek Him on a deeper level. You may feel like you've been cut off from people, but in reality, God is pulling you closer to Him. He desires to speak to you, guide you, and reveal things that can only be seen when you are still and focused. In this season, God is giving you the opportunity to go deeper into His Word, to lean on Him in ways you may not have needed to before, and to truly understand the depths of His love for you. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." This stillness is where God shows you who He truly is, and it's where you discover that He is your source of strength, peace, and direction. Sometimes God has to remove people or situations from your life so you can see clearly where your true foundation lies. The world might have told you to lean on others, to find validation in external things, but God is calling you back to the basics, to rely on Him and Him alone. Matthew 6:33 reminds us, "But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." God knows what you need. He knows your desires, your struggles, and your fears. In this time of isolation, He's inviting you to trust Him completely. He's saying, "Let me be the one you depend on. Let me be the one who fulfills you." This deepening of your relationship with God also strengthens your spiritual discernment. When you're isolated, distractions fade away, and suddenly you can hear God's voice more clearly. You begin to recognize His guidance in ways that were perhaps muffled before. You learn to discern His will for your life, to sense His promptings, and to trust in the still, small voice that leads you through the valleys and mountains alike. John 10:27 tells us, "My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me." In this quiet time, God is teaching you to recognize His voice more intimately so that you can follow His lead. This season of isolation, though it may feel challenging, is where your relationship with God truly deepens. It's where you learn to be content in His presence, where you find peace even when the world seems to be swirling around you. It's where you come to understand that no matter how many people leave or how many doors close, God is always there. He is your constant. Psalm 62:5-6 says, "Yes, my soul, find rest in God. My hope comes from Him. Truly, He is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will not be shaken." In isolation, God becomes your fortress, your unshakable foundation. Seek His face, listen for His voice, and allow Him to fill every empty space in your heart. The deeper you go in your relationship with God, the more prepared you'll be for the next chapter He has for you. And when the season of isolation ends, you'll emerge not only stronger, but also more connected to the one who holds your future in His hands. You may be alone, but you are never truly alone when you're with God. Let this time of isolation be where your faith roots grow deeper and your spirit draws nearer to the heart of your Creator. Reason number 3, protection and spiritual cleansing. Chosen one of the most painful aspects of isolation is the loss of people we care about, friends, relationships, and even love partners. It's natural to wonder why God would allow us to face heartbreak, especially when we've given so much of ourselves. But what if the very person you thought was your soulmate wasn't who God intended for you? What if the relationships that once felt so essential to your life were actually hindering you from becoming who God called you to be? Sometimes a breakup feels like the end of the world, but it's really God redirecting you towards someone who will not just love you, but cherish you in the way you deserve. Jeremiah 29:11 assures us, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Let's talk about love partners, those we sometimes invest our whole hearts in, only to face the deep pain of separation. You may have thought that this person was the one, that your relationship was destined to last. But God, in His infinite wisdom, knows the heart in ways we can't. That breakup, that heartbreak, is not a punishment. It's a form of protection. Maybe the person you were with wasn't capable of giving you the love, respect, and support you need as a chosen one. God sees behind the curtain. He sees what lies beneath the surface. And He's telling you, I have something better for you. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." God is working all things for your good, even in the heartbreak. You see, chosen one, the person you may have lost was never yours forever. God has someone in store for you who will love you with 1,000 times more care and affection than you can imagine. A person who will walk with you in your divine calling, uplift you in times of trial, and be a spiritual partner, not just in name, but in truth. This person will align with your purpose, not pull you away from it. So, trust that when God closes one door, He's preparing to open a door to a love that is so much richer, deeper, and more fulfilling than anything you've experienced before. This is part of God's spiritual cleansing. The people who have walked away from your life didn't leave by accident. God allowed it to happen because He wants to show you their true nature. 1 Corinthians 15:33 reminds us, "Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character." Sometimes you might not even realize the toxicity in certain friendships or relationships. You may have been surrounded by people who smiled in your face but secretly hoped for your downfall, people who only stayed close because they were benefiting from your light. But God sees what you don't. He knows when someone is draining you, holding you back, or subtly planting seeds of doubt in your spirit. In His grace, He removes them, because He wants to free you from anything that can corrupt your purpose. This is why isolation is a form of spiritual cleansing. God is stripping away the people and situations that aren't good for your soul, even if you can't see it in the moment. He's cleaning out the spiritual clutter so you can move forward with clarity, strength, and a purified heart. Psalm 51:10 pleads, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me." God is doing exactly that, renewing your spirit and cleansing your path of anything that could lead you astray. So, as painful as it might be, trust the process. God knows who and what is best for you. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." Even if you don't understand why things are happening the way they are, trust that God is directing your path. He's clearing out the weeds so that the flowers of your life can bloom. God's protection and cleansing are acts of love. He's preparing you for something far greater, with people who are aligned with your purpose and a partner who will love you deeply in ways you never thought possible. Hold on to His promises and know that in every loss there is divine protection, and the best is yet to come.